Hey everybody, welcome back. We are here for another sample section. This is where I try to chip away at the giant pile of Kindle samples that I have. And it's great. I have now been exposed to a bunch more books that I didn't really know about. However, I keep adding more. I have absolutely no way of stopping that. So that means I'm going to be doing this forever. Fantastic. But the sample that we have this time around is this one. It is... There we go. It is Womb City by Tlotlo, I wrote this down, Tlotlo Tsamaase. I'm terribly sorry if I got that wrong. From the cover, it looks real neat. It's a very Afro-punk cover. We've got this a woman's head. We've got what seems to be a fetus gestating inside it. We've got the braids in the back. We got the robotic body, and I think the Womb City, the title, kind of disappearing as it goes down, is a really nice effect. Other than that, the cover doesn't reveal much, other than I think it's, number one, almost certainly some style of like Afrofuturism. It's going to be about babies. It's going to have to be about babies with a name like Womb City and a gestating fetus clearly on the cover. It's going to be about babies. And the idea of Womb City, I'm thinking babies that are built in complexes or stored. I don't know. It's going to be about babies. I know that much. So let's take a read and see what we got, and I will see you in a minute. All right. So Womb City, what have we got? There's a few things I noticed even before we got into the story. I think this is the first book that I've read that comes with a content notice on the copyright page. Content notice, Womb City contains depictions of blood, body horror, card accidents, child death of parent, and such forth. I don't think I've seen that before. It's kind of neat. It also has an epigraph with quotes from Nawal El-Saadi, who, I had to look this up because I did not know, who was a writer who wrote a famous book called Woman at Point Zero, which is the life of a murderer, the story about women under patriarchy and sort of how women have to exist in a world that is built fundamentally for men. And I added the sample of Woman at Ground Zero to my list. Like I said, it's always growing. But I can see how that idea is woven into even just this sample, because what we get is a main character, a narrator named Nela, who is living in Botswana, and she is in a society which is fundamentally patriarchal. She doesn't seem to have a whole lot of control over her own life, although that's only partially because she's a woman. But a lot of sort of the inner monologue and a lot of the conversation kind of tends to reduce itself back down to, well, this is because I'm a woman, or this is what women are expected to be, or this is what men expect of women. And so that is a recurring theme in the sample. But here's the thing. This is a sci-fi novel, definitely. It is a sci-fi, and it took a little while reading the sample to kind of figure out what the author is doing with this. And I can see what the author is trying to put together. It reminded me, honestly, a lot of Altered Carbon. If you ever got to see that show, which is probably based on a book, but that show, the idea behind Altered Carbon is that your brain could be, or your mind could be encoded into like a little disc, and then that could be put into new bodies anytime, so that your mind is effectively immortal as long as you have a body to put it into. And this kind of read like that. So Tsamaase has come up with a system, basically, where you can get a new body after like 70 years of life. You've lived 70 years, you can then get a new body, and then you can do this, or if you've had an accident or you died from something else, they can take your mind, put it in a new body, and you can kind of do this for up to 210 years. That 210 years is what's called a lifespan. And you can kind of body hop for 210 years. And then what I think is that after that 210 years, they kind of reset you and you start again for another 210 years. I think that's how it is. It's still not entirely clear to me how it all works. But anyway, our protagonist doesn't seem to really know who she is. She doesn't know what body she's been put into. She knows that her body has a prosthetic arm, which lowers the value of the body. She knows that the body has kind of a criminal history, but she doesn't know what that is. She wasn't involved with it. And the government believes that a body's criminal history is kind of encoded into it. And so the narrator has to go through a series of kind of personality and psychological tests just to prove to the government that she's not going to go off and commit a crime at some point. And that gives me it really gives me very Minority Report vibes in that sense, that this very highly advanced AI can predict whether you will commit a crime someday. And we have our narrator, Nella, who doesn't know really what this body has done that's going to make it happen, but that's what has to happen. And the sample kind of gets into some of the complications with this idea of body hopping. Like you are put into a new body. That body had a family, parents, brothers, sisters, maybe. And you have to decide, am I going to integrate myself into this body's family, or am I going to separate myself from it? Our narrator, she tries to integrate herself. It doesn't work terribly well. There's issues of marriage, like, are you still married to somebody? It is very complicated, and I wish it were, I don't know, maybe I'm stupid. I wish it were spelled out a little more clearly in some places, because I don't quite get it, but maybe by the end of the book, it'll all make sense. And that's fine. If the author doesn't lay out their entire world system at the very beginning of the book, that is absolutely their prerogative. And that is absolutely fine. I have to keep in mind that I'm working off just a short sample there. So I do think it's neat, though. I do think it is this idea of this weird qualified immortality is kind of neat. And of course, she makes it, she links it to the sort of the perils of modern capitalism, which is if you have money, then your next body can be a good one. You can get one of the good bodies, or even a very fresh one, which is where the idea of Womb City comes in. That you can... that people can pay to gestate a baby kind of in these facilities. It's very expensive. But if they cannot pay back all of the bills that they have, then the child, the body, kind of becomes property of the state, and that a new person can be plopped into a perfectly fresh, new, mint, never been used, new baby smell body. So yeah, if you've got money, you can get a good body. If you don't have money, you're going to get kind of a really rotten second-hand body, or third-hand body even. And then again, laced through all of this is that the narrator wants to have children, but can't have children for some reason, and she doesn't really know why. So yeah, it is neat. It does end with the narrator accidentally kidnapping a child, which you don't want to do, especially when the government kind of automatically assumes you're going to be committing a crime anyway. You don't want to kidnap children. That's going to raise some red flags. But yeah, I think that, like I said, it reminded me a little bit of Minority Report, a lot of Altered Carbon. There's a smattering of Brave New World in there, with children being kind of gestated externally out there in tubes. Some Handmaid's Tale, where this emphasis on birth is so important. I kept seeing it over and over again in the text, that is so important, being a mother and giving birth to babies. And I think it's because babies are a capitalist commodity now. Since people can live functionally forever, it is to the benefit of the moneyed classes, or to the owner class, to have a lot of fresh baby bodies around ready for people to get into. There you go. But the mystery is good. The mystery is really good. I want to know, for example, who was Nella before she was Nella? Who was she before she got into this body? What happened to her current body? How did it lose an arm? What crime did it commit? How evil is this? There's a company called Body Hope, which is the company that basically controls this sort of body hopping system. And I know they're evil. They have to be evil. Of course they're evil. How evil are they? That's what I want to know. So I have a lot of questions. I don't have a whole lot of predictions for this. I kind of hope that Nella gets out from under the thumb of her just awful husband. I hope that Nella figures out what's going on with her, and who her previous incarnation was, and who her previous body was. Would I get the book? Sure. It's, like I said, the reading, and I can't quite put a finger on it, but the reading in the sample did feel a bit clunky in places, where it felt like the author kind of wants us to make sure that we're getting the point that they're putting down. But I think it was okay. It was some very evocative reading. And again, I'm always a fan of Afrofuturism, and I always want to see more writers from underrepresented cultures getting out there in the world. So I think this would be a good book to read. If you've read this book, Womb City, and you want to tell me about it, please do get down there in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. In the meantime, you know the drill. This is YouTube. Like, subscribe. and all that good stuff. And in the meantime, I will be back with another sample another time. So stay well. I will see you later.